everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Glossy Philosophy. My name is Jansen Binman, and today you are tuned in for a book talk. Today we are talking about The Queen and Her Life by Andrew Morton. Andrew Morton is kind of like a royal biographer. He's also written other biographies on Angelina Jolie and Tom Cruise, but his most famous biography up until this point has been about the late Princess Diana. And he had personal interviews with her, so he's very well acquainted with Diana and Prince Charles and kind of the upstairs, downstairs, what's going on in the Windsor family, and also, at least for them, what was going on with their lives. So now he is going in depth with the Queen, and he takes us from her childhood all the way through to almost her passing last year in 2022. So let's just we have a quick synopsis, we have a little bit about the author. Let's get into the book. Something that I found so surprising was, well, first of all, let's back up. I didn't really know anything about the late Queen Elizabeth II before I read this book. The royal family has always been kind of talked about in my family growing up, and I've always been interested in their fashion, especially when Princess Kate came on the scene. I was very interested in her makeup because a famous Bobbi Brown artist did her makeup and does a lot of the royal family makeup. So I kind of got more involved in the royal family that way. And then Sally Hughes, who also covers beauty, wrote a book about the Queen and all of her wardrobe choices throughout the years, and just the intensity in which things and the details in which things have to be chosen based on where she's going, and things have to match, which means that her outfits have to be planned sometimes years in advance. And so that was really fun for me. And then when she passed, I felt like I really needed to get to know her and just kind of see who was this person who reigned over England for the longest period of time that any royal has ever reigned over anything. She was head of the Church of England. She was very integral in a lot of diplomatic missions, and also just kind of being the face of England for so long. And I just wanted to know a little bit more about her, because anytime I can learn about a powerful and inspiring woman, I want to. So in the beginning, Elizabeth's life was interesting because it says that when she was a baby, she was as well known as Shirley Temple. And, being American, I can only imagine that must have been very intense for her mother and father. Thinking as a mother of my two little ones, if every time we stepped out of the house, people thought that my children were movie stars, that would be a little bit frightening, and it would make me want to kind of stand away from people a little bit more and just be a little bit more reserved. And being in the royal spotlight, you have to be there for the people, and you have to represent the people. So you have to share so much of yourselves and so much of your lives with everyone. And so Elizabeth was in the spotlight since she was a baby, and then of course world wars happen and the family comes under major attack, and there are several instances that Andrew Morton writes about where the Nazis are trying to capture them, and there's all these plans of bombing Buckingham Palace where they live, and the king and his family basically refuse to leave the heart of England because they want to stand strong and stand with their people. So she comes from hardy stock, and she comes from a family and from a father who was king, who wanted to serve dutifully and give a lot of honor to the crown. And then he unfortunately passes away pretty quickly in her life. She's newly married, and she becomes queen. So that's kind of shocking. And I haven't seen very much of The Crown. I've only seen a little bit of the first episode, so I've missed a lot of coverage on the late Queen's life. I really, again, only knew her from Sally Hughes' fashion talks and a little bit from her dealings with Princess Kate. And then also a little bit about Princess Diana, because my family was very into that wedding and that marriage and just kind of following the talk and the gossip and all of that, what was happening with that. So I had not a great full picture of who the queen was. So she becomes queen as a very young lady, and immediately it is obvious to everyone around her that she is going to take this job very seriously. And even in her first initial speech as queen, she says, "For however long I may live, whether it be short or long, I will serve you and I will do my duty as best as I can." And I think she really does. Like, no matter what you think about her, no matter how you feel about how she's handled situations, I truly, at least based on this book, I truly believe that she did the best that she could. And the times when she got a lot of kind of kickback, or when people weren't crazy about her reaction to things, it was because she was either trying to make sure that like first responders could get somewhere first, or she was being a grandma, or she just wasn't expecting an explosion of emotion to happen over certain things. And then as soon as she realized that she needed to be like the grandmother or the mother of all British people, like how heavy is that? She immediately goes where she is needed. And it was just so inspiring, and also kind of sad to read about how much she gave up personally and how much she gave up just of her life to her country, to her people, and to the job. She was the job. It kind of made me think about the movie The Princess Diaries, when Anne Hathaway's friend, I don't remember her name, is talking to her on the bleachers, and she says, if you become princess, you can never have a bad day, you can never have a bad hair day, like you always have to be prim and proper and on the spotlight. And that seems like it is 100% true. It also reminds me of a quote from Shakespeare that says, "The world is a stage and we are all players in it." And I think when you are in the spotlight like a royal, and especially when you are a king or queen or the heir to be, then you are 100% in the spotlight, and you can't have an opinion. You can't like do anything without thinking of, is this going to be offensive? How is this going to be played? I'm head of the Church of England. I'm in charge of representing this whole country, especially on diplomatic missions. It's just like, what a heavy burden. And even the late Queen Elizabeth's father, when he's kind of bringing her up, knowing that she will one day be queen, says many times to his staff and others who can hear like how lonely she is going to be for the rest of her life. It does seem in this book, again, according to Andrew Morton, that her marriage to Prince Philip was a pretty good one, which is so wonderful, because I can't imagine having all of those responsibilities on you and not having some kind of support somewhere and being able to be yourself somewhere. It really does seem like the two of them, even though they had kind of a fiery relationship sometimes, that they were actually able to just be themselves with each other. And they might not have ever been able to be themselves with anybody else. It's really hard to say. There are times when the queen is allowed to go on vacation, and she gets very upset if photographers come and kind of disrupt that. And Andrew Morton talks about her love of horses, and it's her time to be with her horses and her dogs, and it's just like such an interesting situation that she found herself in. And I think the British people are really lucky that she was able to step up to the plate and really bring it home so many times. Of course, she made mistakes just like everybody. And it does seem like when she was criticized, it was almost like people forgot that she was a person and they just needed her to be almost this just like Wonder Woman robotic automaton that was like the grandmother and mother of the country, which again, what a heavy, heavy burden. I'm not really going to talk about the family drama that happens in the Windsor family and is kind of still happening. I think Andrew Morton, the author, did a great job of discussing any family drama, but always bringing it back to the Queen, which was great because I'm not really interested in he said, she said, and I'm not really interested in like juicy gossip. I really wanted to learn about the Queen, and I felt like I did. I felt like whenever there was a bit of drama, he always brought it back to the Queen and like how was her reaction and what did she do? How did she handle it? How did Prince Philip handle it? So that was really interesting. And again, a lot of the criticism I feel like she got was she was a little bit maybe cold or disinterested in people, but that couldn't be further from the truth. It seemed like she said many times that she felt so fully that she had to almost create a mask when she was out in public to make sure that she could represent the crown with honor and respect and not become so dramatic like maybe she was feeling on the inside. I would have loved to spoken with her and just kind of been in her presence, but everybody who says that they were in her presence, for the most part, says that she was very respectful and very just like had this aura of power around her, and that must have been so amazing to be in her presence. Helen Mirren, he talks about Helen Mirren going in for a discussion with the Queen and Prince Philip and just being completely tongue-tied and having no idea what to say and just feeling so embarrassed because even though she's played the Queen a few times, actually being in the presence of the Queen is a whole other ball game. So I thought that was really a fun little tidbit that he threw in. And at the end, even though he doesn't go all the way to the late Queen's passing, he does raise some really interesting questions. So towards the end of her reign, she kind of took a step back and made sure that Prince Charles was taking over a lot of the roles that she was in charge of because of health reasons mostly, and then he in turn was bringing Prince William up as well and just making sure that everybody knew how things were supposed to go. And they had their own ideas of how they wanted to see the monarchy change, and it seemed like they wanted it to become a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit less all-consuming. And I think, again, that just tells you how dedicated the late Queen was to her job, that she was doing so much that it really was all-consuming. And for better or worse, her son, Prince Charles, and her grandchildren are saying, like, this is too much. We need to back it off a little bit. We are people, we are humans, we can only do so much. And I also like that he questions just like, what is the purpose of the royal family, and is it still okay that one family continues to reign while we are in a much more diverse world now? Or we are acknowledging all of the diversity now? Is that okay? And just asking some really interesting questions, even though he is very pro queen. He does do a little bit of criticism throughout the book, and he does ask some interesting questions, but you definitely get the sense that he liked the queen very much and respected her very much. So if you've never read any biographies about her, and if you're just really interested in a little bit more of a real life, what was her life like, and a little bit less like TV, movie, what she was like, I would really recommend this book. I thought it was really well written. I couldn't put it down. I read it in a few days over a family vacation, and then it was just like, couldn't stop thinking about it. I still can't stop thinking about it. She was an amazing woman and so inspiring with so much of the things that she did. And again, her dedication to her people was out of this world. Just so interesting. And again, it does raise a lot of questions about, should one person be responsible for all of these things? But these are questions that we've also been asking, like of Queen Victoria. I know there was a major asking of questions with her role in the government and in the church and all of that. So we continue to ask these questions, and we continue to change and see what will happen next. So I'm really interested now to maybe read another book about her, or get someone else's perspective about how she handled her reign and how she kind of left her legacy, which I think was another theme kind of running through this book, was legacy. What is her legacy? And it seemed like she was so thrilled when her grandchildren started having children of their own, especially Prince William when he married Princess Kate, and then they started having children. It seemed like she could kind of relax a little bit, like, I don't have to carry all of this burden on myself. There's new generations now, and I'm raising them with the respect and the dedication to the job that needs to happen. So that is the book talk of The Queen, Her Life by Andrew Morton. I really loved it. I would 100% recommend it, especially if you haven't read any other biographies about her. I will just briefly say that because Andrew Morton wrote the biography on Diana, I thought the stuff about Diana in here was really interesting and completely not what I was expecting from kind of living through it. But I lived through it as a child, and just reading about it, it was quite shocking. More so on her part than really on the Queen's part. And it was interesting that he's very pro-Queen after going through that himself. But yes, I really loved it. A little bit of criticism that I've read about this biography is that he doesn't really bring anything new to the table. If you've been following the life of the Queen, then you already know all this information. There's nothing really interesting or whatever, and maybe he's a little bit too familiar with the royal family, calling them by first names and things like that. Again, this is my first biography of a royal, so I thought it was amazing. And if you have read other biographies, rent this one from the library, see what you think. But I bought this one as soon as it came out, and I really, really like it, and I will probably read it again. So thank you for watching. I normally do fashion videos on Wednesdays, beauty videos on Fridays, and on Mondays tackle very specific situations and give tips and tricks to make your life easier in fashion and beauty. But sometimes I also do book talks, so first Wednesday of every month. So hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe, and I'll see you very soon in the next video. Bye!